in my journey, I found out that the curriculum that they're teaching the kids to read is wrong. And they're still saying, oh, we care about the kids. I'm like, you don't care about the kids. Because if you cared, you'd be interested in the fact that we're using the wrong system, and I've brought you all this information. When people are failing, especially like this, in terms of members of the leadership, you have to ask yourself, are they failing because this position is beyond their capabilities, or are they failing because they do not have the right tools to succeed?
What inspired you to run?
I've actually gotten better at not crying about this.
Welcome you guys to another episode of Mapp It Out. So today we had Lawrence Blaber on the podcast, and you will learn throughout this episode why Lawrence is so passionate about ameliorating the system here in Niagara Falls to better suit the children today and the children of tomorrow. So here's my episode with Lawrence. I hope you guys enjoy it. I'll see you at the end.
Do you shoot B-roll for any of this or not really?
Well, it depends. In regard, we mean B-roll, like going out and shooting extra stuff?
Yeah, or do you just have like general photos on the Niagara Falls area you slap in?
Yeah, I usually no, I don't like the photo stuff. I'm very, what's the word? I'm very peculiar about my content. Mm-hmm. So I like it to be more advanced in a sense. Mm-hmm. So if I'm gonna do B-roll, I'm gonna do a drone shot or something like that.
Ah, okay. Yeah.
But for the podcast in particularly, mm-hmm. I try to keep it simple as possible because I don't want people to get distracted from the messages, mm-hmm. Because if you look at my earlier podcast, I did a lot of cinematic cut scenes of things that I was talking about, put imagery behind it so that way you can get the feel of it. And I was like, cool. Was that necessary though?
Yeah, it's a lot of extra.
Yeah.
I saw your interview with the guy with the bike tours and all of that stuff. I was
Galen,
like, I was like, oh wow, I didn't, because that was the one you sent me. I was like, I didn't even think of all the things that went into in that journey. A lot of times you see a business successful. Yeah. You're like, oh man, look, that's pretty cool for him. You don't see the journey from.
Correct. You don't see the intricate steps taken, from point A to point B.
And all the failures, yep.
Lawrence, mm-hmm. Welcome to the Mapp It Out podcast. Appreciate you coming, my brother.
Thank you for having me.
Word. We got an exciting conversation today.
Yeah.
And I think this is an opportunity for the audience to get a deep dive into my scholastic beginnings, and then also what's happening here in Niagara Falls in this county in regards to the school system, what you're planning on doing to fix things, and then we get a little bit of deep dive of who you are as well as an individual.
Yeah, I'm excited for that, and I'm excited to talk about what change needs to happen to the Niagara Falls School District and what it can mean for the overall city.
Well, let's start with this. Who is Lawrence?
Lawrence Blaber, somebody asked me, and I always say, the biggest key to understand is I am the youngest of 4 kids of Lawrence and Diana Blaber. My parents are crucial to me. I consider my dad a real life superhero, and my mom a goddess. They were incredible to how I came up. And, I'm the youngest of, my 2 brothers are older, we're close. My sister, unfortunately, passed before I was born. Most of the family doesn't talk about it, but I decided as I got older to at least acknowledge her. Yeah. Some families, nobody wants to talk, but yeah. And my family, they grounded me. There's certain things that happen when you're an immigrant child, and a lot is being into you about understanding all that was given up for you to have an opportunity to be here. Mm-hmm. So you always grow up with that. And I'm very glad of the life I live. I'm proud of my kids and my wife. But also, now that I'm here and part of what I'm running is that there's an opportunity being denied other kids, and I feel I have a responsibility to make it clear to the public what needs to change. And I've decided to run because I feel like there's nobody else who's ready to really lead this charge and be uncomfortable.
I want to continue down your path in regards to where you started, but you said run. So I want you to elucidate. What do you mean running? What are you running for?
I am running to be on the Niagara Falls City School District School Board. There are 9 positions, 2 are up this year for election. As of right now, there are 2 candidates, the 2 incumbents and myself. We have until I think the end of April for all the candidates to submit. So that is where we are now. So I don't know if others will join, but right now it's 3 of us for 2 seats.
Got it. What inspired you to run?
My daughter, my kids. And everybody will say, oh, it's my kids and stuff like that. But I've actually gotten better at not crying about this, okay? My daughter's dyslexic. So in my journey, I found out that the curriculum that they're teaching the kids to read is wrong. The popular one, it's wrong. I found out our school district is teaching this hurtful curriculum, okay? Now, this isn't just hurtful to dyslexics. It's hurtful to all children, but it's especially harmful to dyslexics. So knowing my rights, right, because this is what I did previously in a previous life, I'll catch you up on that. You find out, you talk to advocacy agencies for dyslexia and all of this, and we find out all of these things. We talk to the school district. They don't want to change. Through all my contacts and my ability to make phone calls, we brought in some of the foremost leaders in curriculum implementation. They don't want to use them. Now, this gets personal for me because we've got my daughter getting tutoring to help with her dyslexia and teach her to read 2 days a week. But we have to drive to Williamsville because there's nothing here. But my son's autistic. He's level 3 non-speaking. He's getting better. And they said, if he could get a double dose, some in school and some private speaking, speech therapy, he'd be much further along. But I can't do that because I also work for myself. So that means 2 days a week, my wife goes to Williamsville with my daughter for tutoring, and I come home early and I'm with my son. If we added another 2 days for his speech, that's 4 days a week, right? Yeah. So
how old are your children? I'm sorry.
8 and 5.
8 and 5. Which one is 8? The daughter?
The daughter is 8. That's the dyslexic one. So I'm stuck in this Sophie's choice where I have to keep him from getting the speech therapy he needs to speak to me to get her the reading treatment she needs, because I'm not going to live forever. Neither is my wife. So she's going to have to be his caretaker. So she's going to need to read medical documents, legal documents, financial documents. I don't know how far he'll come along. Nobody knows that. So I'm doing all of this. And they're still saying, oh, we care about the kids. I'm like, you don't care about the kids. Because if you cared, you'd be interested in the fact that we're using the wrong system and I've brought you all this information. And Sean, we have like 2 cars in my house. And I'm not saying this to brag, right? But we have some stability, right? So we can afford to do this. You live in Niagara Falls. How many parents have 2 cars, let alone 1 car? How many parents can even get the treatment? How many parents know how to write this letter specifically that you have to write to make sure the school covers the dyslexia treatment? Yeah. So all the people who do not have this ability, they're even in worse trouble. Yeah.
What they said, the median income in Niagara Falls is about $30,000 a year in 2025. That should tell you a lot. Mm-hmm. That should tell you a lot about the city too.
Yeah, that median income brings to a later point I'll bring.
Okay. You said that the system right now that they're working with is wrong.
Yeah.
What is wrong about it?
The easiest way to understand the system that they're using now is in the early levels, right? It is what is called, it's 3-word cueing or whole word literacy. They've tried to change it to call it balanced literacy. But a lot of it is look at what you're reading, look at the pictures, figure out the clues to what this paragraph is saying. So you see a girl painting a fence and you see the color purple, and you'll see I painted the fence purple. So you got to look at the clues and stuff like that. That might be okay to get you through 3rd grade, maybe 4th, but at some point, there's no more pictures. So you have, what we need to go back to is what is known as the science of reading, which in essence, it's a kind of a blast from the past. We're going back to phonics. We're going back to phonemic awareness. We're going back to the days where you'd be like, Mom, how do you pronounce this word? And they tell you, sound it out. Like that kind of direct instruction, breaking it down over and over for the kid until it's perfect, until they get it. Yeah. We need to go back to that. They're refusing to go back to that. And this old way has been banned in 19 states, including Ohio. And Ohio's key because the product manufacturer headquartered is in Ohio. Their headquarters is in Ohio, and their product is banned in the state of Ohio. By the governor. The governor signed it gladly.
Really?
Mm-hmm. I know the lady, I did a previous podcast with the lady who brought the lawsuit on him.
Interesting. Why do you think that they resort to not evolutionizing the educational system?
I think because we don't treat education like we treat every other industry. Like every other industry, we realized we don't make cars the same way. We everything changes. The fast food industry even has changed from the 1950s. Yeah. Somehow we don't pay attention to how education changes. A lot of people don't know what's going on in the schools until their kids have a problem. They just assume you take the kid to school, the teacher teaches, and it's done. Yeah. So we don't treat it, so we don't know all the things that are coming out. There's things coming out that are now harmful to some of the teachers. There's a lot of educational technology that's coming out now that's saying, okay, give the kid this test, give him this thing online and whatnot. And from a friend of a friend, right, who I have, right, his wife is in the educational tech industry. And he told me, he was like, a lot of this software takes the ability out of the teacher. There's no room for a teacher to actually do some teaching and show their personality. Yeah. And make it different for each child, because certain childs are at certain levels and certain ones of them engage in different ways. No, they keep pushing using the technology. Mm-hmm.
Now, I know for me particularly, and I'll use my personal experience, even as a young kid in the Bronx, and when we're talking early 1990s or late 1990s, no, mid 1990s. Excuse me.
I'm definitely older than you then, because I was in high school in the Bronx in 92 to 96.
Oh, really?
Yep, well, in high school.
Really? How old are you?
Me, I'm 46.
Okay, yeah, 10 years older than me.
Yeah.
Yeah. So for me particularly, I just remember growing up in the Bronx, and it makes it much more cumbersome, especially when you grow up in a single family household with multiple siblings. My mom worked a lot. Mm-hmm. She couldn't spend the adequate amount of time helping teach my brothers scholastically.
The thing that yours reminds me of is one of the people I brought to them. He's got his own special, The Right to Read, Kareem Reaver. I did a podcast with him, and it was the same as with the lady who won the Ohio lawsuit. And one of the things he's very keen on people to understand about reading in the different levels. He always uses this example, right? If you're having a couple of kids sleep over at your house, right? Your son and a couple of friends, right? Mm-hmm. One of the kids has to have vegetables, whether it's cooked broccoli or salad or whatnot. One of his parents, the other kid, his parents really like him to have it, but he doesn't need it. One of the kids has to have some, not a lot, just a little, not as much as the other. On one of them, he's fine. His parent, he'll eat whatever, and his parents also gave him like a couple of bucks to read, okay? And then there's your son. You know what he's going to likes to eat or whatnot. So in that situation, the easiest thing is I'll make a salad for everybody and probably order pizza, right? Everybody gets some sort of vitamins, and then we can have the pizza, right? What we're pushing for curriculum-wise is the salad. It can work for everybody. Whether you read a lot or you don't read a lot, you will learn to read. And a huge part of what happens, and they say the kids are disinterested and whatnot, is it's part ADHD, but part also it's hard to be interested when you can't read and you don't understand the subject. So if you want that extra participation, that's fine. And some of this ed tech stuff, it's just, and I'm like, again, I wish our school board would invest as much. It's not a school board, actually. It's the board of capital projects. Because if it's some building, some HVAC, they'll pound their chest about that. School, grade rankings, no. But this ed tech, again, it doesn't really teach the kids. It lets them fail and then say, oh, come back the next day. And then you're supposed to read what the ed tech prints out and know how to teach them. Well, once the kid spends a whole day guessing wrong and not knowing, they have no interest in whatever you turned off. Yeah, they're already turned off. So it's just it's a willingness to reset the basis, the plan for everybody and how things work and how they grasp everything. And the thing that's even wilder is there's some states now where if the kid isn't reading by third grade and he's about to go into fourth, they're calling the teachers in. They're like, Mr. Mapp, did you not notice that James was struggling with reading?
Yeah. You should. I should. As a professor or teacher, I should know that.
Yes. And they're calling the second grade. How did he make it from second to third on your watch?
Yeah, because a lot of times they just push them over.
That's the thing. It started with No Child Left Behind, and it's now become every student succeeds, and it's a policy. So the kid will be pushed into fifth grade, but still have a third grade reading book. Yeah. And this is what is a problem, because some parents, now that there's no kid being left back, they don't know. Yeah. They don't know what's going on with the kid. They assume the kid's moving on to the next grade, so he's learning. And then your kid graduates. But if you look at it, he's got a high school certificate, not a high school diploma. A lot of our kids are getting high school certificates. Okay, that means you're done, but you don't know how to read. Because here's the thing. The math's not mathing, and I told them to their face. If 25% of our eighth graders are reading, but our graduation rate is 80%, where's this extra number coming from? Yeah. Where's this extra number coming from? And this is America, right? So you can start out as anything and work your way up, right? But if you can't read, and I told them yesterday, and part of why they had to fit, you're talking about, we're doing salt trucks and, it's hard to get CDL drivers, so we're going to get small. To be a CDL driver, you need a GED. You need a high school diploma. If you don't have any of those, you still have to pass a written exam. You can't pass that. You can't be a CDL. You can be a great worker at McDonald's. They say they want you to move up. You got to take a written test. You can be great at construction. You'll never become a foreman if you can't start filling out paperwork for guys. So we immediately stop these kids from having any future. Then we complain about the poverty. Well, I mean, where are they going to go? That's why it caps off at 30,000, like you said, because where are they going to go? Yeah. They can't get promotions. And then we say to parents, and I mean, if you can't read or what to expect when you're expecting book, because it's too hard, what kind of parenting are they going to be able to do?
Correct, yeah.
So, and we create all of this here, and we've been creating it, and then we say, well, it's the parents and the poverty. There's just no accountability. There's no responsibility. And that's what I always say. It's like, you'd say parents, you guys are the worst parents. Because if I saw a parent give kid $20 to go to the theater and ask a kid, did you clean your room? No. Did you do the dishes? No. Did you mow the lawn? No.
Yeah, I'm the same way with my kids.
here's $20. But that's what they do because the people come up to them, right? The curriculum director, the superintendent sitting right next to them, and it's like, I'm sorry, we're last in reading for 6 years straight. How's this thing that you're doing going to bring us up in percentages? And it's like a huge gap. Like everybody else is flirting around the 40s. We're at like 20 for our third grade literacy.
So Lawrence, what is something that you plan on doing when you get in?
Okay. Well, before I start that, I just got some stats for people to understand, and I want to get that out the way to understand.
Stats for what?
About our school district.
Copy.
Because I want to remind people, the election is May 20th. Okay? That's the third Tuesday in May. And a week before that, the Niagara Community Information Group is going to host a forum at the library on Main Street where all the candidates are going to get to speak, right?
Copy.
So I want people to know that and get registered. But our school budget is last year anyway, was essentially 203 million. I'll skip the point.
203 million?
Yep. 800 people voted in the election. Well, more voted, but the top vote getter had 823 people. So basically, roughly 823 people are helping decide a $203 million budget. And those 800 help elect the people who decide 203 million.
Well, do you know the budget previously?
Well, this was an increase of 11.7 million from the year before.
Really?
Yep. No tax levy, no staff cuts, no program cuts. They're using 4.6 million of reserve funds to close the gap. 83% of the budget is state aid, 15% is local tax, 2% Medicaid and Greenway funds. Now, this is information nobody's giving to people. Now, and this is one of the things I'm very big on is we have to give people information. Now, what you ask me what I'll do is, here's the thing. As a school board member, I can't get into a fight over the day-to-day choices of the software or the curriculum. That's got to be them, right? But I can ask them, why do you want us to spend money on this product if we've used it 3 years in a row and it's failing?
Yeah.
Because I told them, I said, listen, I don't have to be an educator. But one of the first things you have to do within project management is, what is our goal? If our reading level is 20%, right, for our third graders, my first thing is, in the next year, I'd like to see it say 25% or something like 30%. Okay, what do we need to happen to get there? What are our benchmarks? What are our milestones? These are fundamental basics of project management. All right, and if we do not hit them in the next year, what are we going to countermeasure at next year? And if we don't hit them again, what are we doing? Because that's the thing. When people are failing, especially like this, in terms of members of the leadership, you have to ask yourself, are they failing because this position is beyond their capabilities, or are they failing because they do not have the right tools to succeed?
And it's very important too, and I don't want people to miss this fact. It's extremely convoluted for the simple fact that when these children fail in school, most of the time they end up in prison.
Yes.
So when you fail them in the school system, you literally are exacerbating crime in the streets.
Exactly. I mean, they say most prisons, especially for-profit prisons, they start looking at scores around 4th, 5th grade, seeing the kids who are struggling and start putting together beds because they're pretty confident in 5 years they're gonna turn these kids into guests. Yeah, we'll say. So yeah, so you've got that happening. Like, that's the other thing I point out to them. We have a truancy problem, right? Kids don't show up. But why would you show up at a place that makes you feel dumb and you're an idiot, right? We've got
makes you feel like an idiot.
Yeah. Okay, we've got crime. Well, I mean, if you're not reading and bad in math, the one place that'll always employ you is the streets. The streets always got work for you. Always.
That is a fact.
And then our teen pregnancy rate went up 10%.
Yeah.
And, facts the way they are, you've got teenage boys who can't read and already getting into the streets in trouble, and then you've got teenage girls who can't read, and women react differently to the struggles. Boys can get aggressive and start fights and whatnot. Girls, they fall back, disinterested, be quiet.
Yeah.
Don't. So teachers like, oh well, Tiffany's so great. She doesn't ever say anything. She's so quiet and keeps to herself. Well, she can't read. That's why she keeps to herself. But she suffers in silence, which is what people don't pick up. And then, of course, they're going to go to where they get attention and self-esteem from, which are the boys who can't read.
Yes.
And then you now have
make bad decisions.
Yes. Then you get bad decisions. And
I wonder if anybody, I'm pretty sure somebody probably did this type of study, but have you ever looked at the stats in regards to like school failings and crime in that area, and see adjacently how they interact with one another?
The closest thing I've seen is when New York City, under Eric Adams, who, for all the trouble he's gotten himself to, he was an admitted dyslexic, so he was very focused on the dyslexia program. They went into Rikers to start testing just how many kids were dyslexic. They had like I gotta check. I don't want people to hold me to it, but it was an insanely abnormal rate, like something 75 to 80% of the prisoners had some sort of learning disability that was never resolved. And that's how one guy, I'll never forget his story. He literally said, I have what is called dyscalculia, which is like dyslexia, but with numbers. So he couldn't tell you when you so when you're in the store and you say $8, he didn't know how to count it out.
Interesting.
So he would avoid those situations. Then he just started taking the food because he'd pickpocket because he was like, what was I going to do? Give them the money and say I didn't know how to count? I couldn't tell people I didn't know how to count. So that's how you start our whole life of stealing. So the number, so it is this proportionate that the kids who can't read end up in a life of crime.
I'm checking the stat right now. I want to see how many people are actually dyslexic.
They say 1 out of 5. 20% of our general population is dyslexic.
So should we put?
Oh yes, the National Council on Disability report issued on school to prison pipeline. 80% of incarcerated youth have a learning disability. And the federal,
What do you have? I have national estimation. Approximately 40% of people in state prison have disability, with about 25% of them have a cognitive disability, including learning disorders.
Yeah.
New York State Prison, a study by the New York State Commission on Quality of Care found that only 1% to 3% of state prisons population had developmental disabilities. However, the study did not specifically address learning disabilities, and no comprehensive updates have been made since 1991.
Wow. Yeah. The 2016 Bureau of Justice Statistics survey, 14.1 of state and federal prisoners reported having a learning disability, while 38.4 reported having some other disability. Yeah. Yeah, so you're pretty much guaranteed with these numbers at about a third to a half are going to have some sort of learning disability.
It's crazy. I was going to tell a story about a kid I knew. He had a learning disability, but he was just very angry all the time.
That's why.
Yeah. People called him dumb. He grew up, shot somebody, now he's in prison for the rest of his life.
Yeah. That's a common story. A lot of the fighting that they do oftentimes is because they have nothing to lose. They'd rather be seen as crazy. Oh man, like he crazy. He started a fight because he rather seen as crazy, flip over, that's fight or teacher.
Because there's some value behind that a little bit, especially in the hood.
As opposed to dumb.
Yes.
All the time.
Yeah.
So, that's what people don't understand. And the thing that I want to get back to your question is the reason why you want to ask these questions is we have to raise the standards. We put so much on kids and parents to be, and even the teachers, like you have to be on top. Parents need to do this, but what are you doing as an administrator? If you can see that your program is failing, you can see this product is failing, and you go right back to it.
Correct. Yeah. What are the repercussions? Like, what are happening to you?
There is none, because the people who are the school board members who are responsible for the oversight do not see a problem. They do not see a problem. I've been called rude, disrespectful.
Really?
Yes, for challenging them. And yesterday they had their own thing about, oh, how hard we work. It's a thankless job. We don't get paid. We've spent a lot of money.
Nobody want to hear that.
No, it's not even one. You chose to run. Please believe me. Please believe me. I don't want some of you there.
Yeah.
So that's one. Two, the question isn't that you spend a lot of money. The question is you spend money like a sailor on shore leave. You spend it poorly. You want to spend money, like they want to spend money on social emotional learning. And I'm like, you're missing a key step.
Yeah.
If they can read, then social emotional learning makes sense. But you don't want to learn social emotional learning without it. And the thing about social emotional learning that came to mind is what I'm discussing isn't crazy. You can look up Seaford, Delaware, right? This is a project, right? I was with the community group that pitched this. Seaford, Delaware it's another Kareem Weaver project. There's one of those where he was there and helped them turn around with his nonprofit Fulcrum. He was on the phone. I was in the office, right? Literally, and offered it, right, to a couple of the high-level staff members and the superintendent. He was like, hey, I'm flying out there to check on how we're doing. We're also doing a little clinic for a couple of the schools in the Western New York area, right? To just, let's go down and let's show them how we did it and how it's possible to turn around a school district. They have high poverty and everything else. We were like, yeah. The school board, the school district sent no one. They offered them a seat. They sent no one. Thankfully, the community group was able to send one of our members. She cleared her schedule. We called a couple of nonprofits we knew, and they were like, yeah, we'll send you a stipend to cover the cost of travel and all of this. So she went, but nobody from the school district went.
Wow.
A couple more stats I want people to understand. Outside of GJ Mann and LaSalle Prep, every school building in our district has become what is known as a TSI, Targeted Sport Intervention. Within the educational world, right, that means the state has basically given you one technical or a yellow card, whatever sports analogy you want to use, but you're on one stern warning. And that means that there's this particular demographic within your community, has to be 3 of them, that you failed and like are bottom 10% for the last 3 years. It's usually been black, mixed race, they'll say brown, Latino, whatever, poor, which covers a huge chunk of Niagara Falls, and English as a second language. So at least 3 of them have been failed in the high school, Hyde Park, Gaskell, Bond, Cataract, all of them, except GJ Mann and LaSalle. All of the other schools have failed to some degree or level. And they're sitting there saying, we're doing a good job. How can you be doing a good job? Because if you've been there 5 years, this has all happened on your watch.
Correct.
But this is what I mean by them not knowing the educational industry. They don't understand specifics. You can't ask to be a board member and not actually understand the world of education. Because people are coming telling you everything is fine, and you're like, everything is fine. Everything is not fine. And again, I'm not saying go in there and go become a teacher yourself, but why are you going to continually support a product that's failing? Why are you going to continually not ask questions? Because at some point, continued failure should require somebody to walk the plank. And that's not a personal thing, but at some point, it's got, even in sports, you can't keep losing. At some point, you have to get rid of the coach and try somebody different.
Yeah, for sure.
The These are the stats that are going on that they don't ask. And they can initiate the change by simply asking why we keep picking this product. Why is continued failure under your leadership happening? You're the one picking it. Another insane thing that happens, right? Some parents have noticed their child has trouble concentrating. They're wondering if it's the other kids in class. It's definitely the other kids in class. If your kid is fine and he complains about his classroom, and I want to tell you why. One of the things they do is they let the parents blame the teachers, and they let the teachers blame the parents, right? While the admins sit there and just watch. But in my daughter's class, there are 10 students with IEPs. That's 10 students with special needs out of 24. Maybe 4 of those kids can read at grade level, maybe 5, right? So that leaves another 9, 10 kids that still need regular training. And there's one teacher, one assistant, and one special ed teacher, but she has to go back and forth between that classroom and another classroom that's got 10 students on IEPs and all of that. So we've got that going on, and then we're saying, well, everything is fine. Well, everything's not fine because you clearly need more special ed people. And that's the other thing. I call, because I'm on all these groups, I find out from people who are in this field, most classrooms, most what they call integrated classrooms, where they merge special ed students with like normal students, which are planned. They have like 2 full-time teachers and a couple assistants. They max out at 12 special ed students. We're talking a general classroom with 10 now. That's a lot on one teacher. And they're doing that. Even that integrated classroom that I mentioned, we can't even do it that much because normally when you do that, you put your highest performing students in there so that they can adjust their slower pace by having their not as fast students in there. And
adjust to a slower pace?
Well, basically it's like these kids are pretty good. They can learn a lot on their own with minimal direction. You're going to have a group of about 10 kids that are going to require double, triple direction because they have IEPs or they're special needs. So you put them with kids who require less. It's kind of even it out a bit. That's the logic. Now, some people might disagree because they're like, no, why don't we free up the best kids to do that?
To reach their potential.
Yeah. But here's the problem. We don't even have enough classrooms to pull that off. Because we have such a small pool of top tier talent.
Yeah.
And these are things that are happening. You have to ask questions. You have to know stats. And they don't. And the biggest problem that they have is, I'll tell you 2 things I'm confident of. One, Niagara Falls is a small town. Me and you are both outsiders still adjusting, right? But think about it. How many people here are like, oh, well, this family, we go way back. My grandmother used to babysit his grandmother and whatnot. So then it's like, so are you willing to ask the tough questions? Because it's going to get awkward. Your nana's going to ask you, why are you bothering those poor people and making Joe's grandson's life hard with all these tough questions? But are you here for the kids, or are you here to maintain a family relationship?
Correct.
Because everybody's in this, let's go along to get along things, but we're then failing the kids, and we're just like, oh, well, you parents have to pick up the slack.
Like, what's happening? Like, they know what's
happening. They absolutely, because you know what? They will send their kids and family members to some private schools. Some of them, one person within the district, I don't remember the exact title, sent their kid to one of the top schools, like it's a private boarding school for dyslexia. But you couldn't get the school district to admit that there's a dyslexia issue and that they should be testing for it on their own. No, you still had to write this letter. Thanks to dyslexia, Western New York dyslexia specialist, we had to write a special letter. It's like a speakeasy. You had to use the keywords that the lawyer would be like, oh man, you got to give them what they want. So we knew that because me and you are on the same thing. Like, you ain't going to stop me from finding out all the information I can to change things. But not everybody is. So
I feel like Niagara Falls, period, has this very acquiescent vibe to it. Like
Yeah.
people just let things go.
Yes.
And that's why we're in the problem we're in now.
Yep.
It's because people don't pay attention to government, which is spending money like crazy, but not on the things that are advantageous to you.
Not none of the things people want. That's why people are yelling at
Council meetings.
council meetings.
Yeah.
And so I wanted to bring up
You can answer that if you want.
No, I don't know the number. They can leave a message. I'm a realtor. I answer messages all the time. So like, we have that issue really. And then we have people who I don't think believe our kids can do better. Like one of the things I told my wife, she was like, this is a long drawn out example. I said, but it matters. I was listening to a podcast of a guy who takes municipalities to court for lead paint poisoning of children, right? New York, whatever, Rochester, everywhere, right? And he says the thing that's most heartbreaking is the lost wages because they're like, you have to pay this family because this kid now has lead paint poisoning and he won't be able to achieve his potential. He always asks, I was like, I asked for like 5-6 million. This kid could have worked in tech and made $100,000 a year at the age 25 until you retired at 67. So I was like, I asked for 5 to 6 million. He's like, we get maybe $1.5 million if we're lucky, sometimes 2, but right somewhere about $1.5 million is usually it. So it basically means that the jury has decided that this kid was probably only ever going to get a $30,000 job for the rest of his life.
Wow.
And this was before, and that's the thing is, this is not like after the poisoning. They just assume even without the poisoning, this was the best he was ever going to do.
Correct.
And that's where I feel our school board is at. Like this is the best that they're ever going to do. So 20% is okay. They don't really believe that there's a lot more talent here and ability. So they believe 20% is the max. Because for you to accept these numbers, you would have to believe that this is the max.
Yeah, that's an egregious mindset to take, to say 20% is
Yeah, we're doing great.
Yeah. So you have a lot of passion, obviously, and you have valid reasons why you want to change the system here. And I applaud you because one of the biggest things for me, I have a 1 and a 2-year-old. I want them to go to school here, but the school for me is not adequate for them to go here. What are your biggest challenges you face as an individual, and how do you get over those leaps and bounds? What do you need to get over those leaps and bounds?
One of the biggest challenges I face just in Niagara Falls in this movement is we're an incredibly fractured city. We're also a bit downtrodden. Like you see city council and you've seen people just say like, we always fail, like nothing happens here. So trying to get people together and trying to get people connected. One of the things you learn in my past, I did a lot of community activism for the Pan-African Community Development Initiative. And we partner with African communities together and those kinds of things is you have to partner with other agencies and nonprofits that are somewhat doing the same thing you are. Not 100%, because I'm out here fighting for kids' rights, right? But if there's a nonprofit that wants to deal with affordable housing and they say it's important for the kids for more stability, I might partner with them because I know I can get their support for kids' education. And I'll give them support because I was like, you know what? Less evictions do matter to the kids so you can get some housing stability.
Correct.
Things like that, you have to partner with all the groups. I'll partner with teacher groups, whoever, right? Because that's how you can move progress because everything's fractured and a lot of people have given up. So getting people to believe again is the biggest thing. And one of the things that keeps me running is I've taken on New York City and won with the help of my the two agencies I was working with. I got New York City to make French one of the languages that they offer. It was a weird thing because I was doing work with the African community. And of course, the African community is general, especially in New York City, where it's West African. You're going to get English and you're going to get French. But within the city, they had like 30 languages, but they didn't have French. And I was like, what? And I called them. I was like, why don't you have French? He's like, well, I was like, no, this is not right. You should have French. So they're like, okay, well, come down to the...
What was the excuse for not having French?
they didn't have that much demand. So I was like, well, I'll come down to our office and we'll talk it through. So I called my buddies. He was like, I was literally writing a report to submit this to them. He was like, how did you know? I said, I just called. I saw a problem. I just called them and demanded that we speak. He was like, you're wild. You're wild. So he's there with me. And we had several meetings. And the thing I showed them is their own data showed there was an increase in immigration from West Africa in New York City. So I was like, so why don't you have it? He's like, well, a lot of people haven't asked. I said, they don't speak the language. How can they ask for a language they don't speak? You don't even have it on your phone things. So I brought them to a bunch of meetings. People got in their face a bit. People, but to their thing, they didn't run. They didn't ban how people talk. They took it as passion from the public. And sure enough, within a short time, they changed it.
Wow.
So they added, now one of the languages when people can hit a button is French. So I'm not afraid of being disliked. I'm not afraid to take on those in power. It's about doing what's right. It's about what is best. And I don't have anywhere else to go. I'm kind of like, I sold the house in Buffalo. I'm here now.
Yeah.
And I'm going to make this the best city I can because I got nowhere else to go.
Same here. Yeah, I'm fully invested, just like you, brother. Lawrence, I appreciate you. You have my support, bro. And
Thank you.
Anything you need, let me know.
I appreciate it.
Let's meet, brother. Whew, that was good, bro.
Yeah.
That was good.